Catch it, match it, stash it in the cabinet. Listen to the chorus while let Ivan scratch it. This is real hip hop, we aiming for a classic. And if we can't approach it, screw it, we'll attack it. Catch it, match it, stash it in the cabinet. Listen to the chorus while let Ivan. This is real hip hop, we aiming for a classic. And if we can't approach it, screw it, we'll attack it. What you know about classic music?
All right, everyone. Welcome to attempt number 2 of doing this. Hopefully this works this time. I always love, by the way, like, James tries to be all professional, tries to edit everything out, and says, okay, we're going to pretend this never happened, and then just put up the fact that we fucked up the first time. I just love how that happens every time.
Yeah, because we're idiots.
Yeah. But hopefully you guys can hear us this time.
I'm surrounded by fucking buffoons!
Hey, that was your fault, by the way. So
I know. Well, it was OBS's fault. I had everything fucking set properly beforehand.
But apparently everything's working now.
We're good now.
No, it was Gene Snitsky's fault.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't his fault! Yeah, sorry.
I really wish they did a gimmick with him where then everything was his fault. And then we find out it wasn't his fault, but he thought it was his fault.
We got that gimmick. It was yellow teeth Snitsky. Like, he just embraced that he was a monster.
Yeah. But anyhow, so Zero says everything's working fine now. So thank you, Zero, for letting us know.
Have fun, kids.
Yeah. Thank you, Zero, for saving this retro.
Wait, are you there?
Yeah,
oh yeah, you are the oldest. Shit.
He is the oldest.
Oh.
He's an old man. But anyhow, let's continue talking. So, welcome to today's retro. We're doing 2 retros on the same. Well, I guess we're doing 3 retros now in the same day since we fucked up the first time. It's 3 retros now in the same day. Just one of them never happened technically. I'm Owen the Birdman Fenton. I'm here with
Chris.
How's it feel to do? We're doing 3. We technically did 3 retros in the same day.
Torture.
Yeah. Hey, one of them wasn't too bad. We only did it for like 5 minutes, I think, so it wasn't too bad. So, a 5-minute retro that's coming someday,
and that's not even fucking. It's not even a bad one either. The bad one's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. That's why let's just say that other one's so bad. I'm like, Chris, don't fucking call this off. We're fucking doing it because I had to suffer through that again. But we'll talk about that later today. But let's talk about today. Well,
and we're calling it off.
Yeah. No, we're not. Let's talk about the retro we're doing at this moment. It's the SmackDown April 11, 2017 episode. This is the Superstar Shakeup SmackDown. This is obviously because the draft's coming up on Friday, also Monday. We're doing some draft retros to get ourselves excited about the draft. This was my pick. The reason I picked this is because you and I, Chris, were at this show, and we'll talk about it some more when we get there. But before we get that far, it was. But before we get that far, let's talk about what the company was like and just the industry was like at this time. Which I tried to do the first time, but we found out they couldn't hear us. So I'll say WWE was kind of like in the thumbs in the middle category if we did like that rating at this time. Obviously, the business wasn't in a great position. Obviously, it was just at that time period where wrestling wasn't. At least WWE, anyways, wasn't all that hard. Every other company was doing well. ROH was about to do well again. It was still doing relatively well. New Japan was on fire at this time. This is when New Japan, even though it had started to get that following for like America and everything like that, because they would
big time around this time, yeah.
ROH was doing relatively well, but they were about to become big in a couple of months after this. Where they would get really, obviously they got recognition, when AJ went over to OH for the second time around for that period of time, but they were about to get huge again. Like they were about to be like one of the best indie companies. Obviously, Impact still wasn't doing all that well. I don't think this happened yet, but I'm pretty sure shortly after this they would try to merge with I want to say GCW, but GFW. But
Yeah,
obviously,
they did not long after.
Yeah, but obviously that wouldn't last. But Impact was still pretty bad at this time. Yeah, it was really bad. And then I'm trying to make sure I get all the Lucha Underground was doing really well at this time. I'm pretty sure this was about when they were going to have the bad season, though. Like I remember Lucha Underground is still like technically good, but like the popularity of it have kind of worn off by then. That's what happens when you do have an off season. Like I think a lot of people just kind of lost interest in Lucha Underground a little bit. So
big time.
I think too, this is kind of when all that stuff was starting to come out about Lucha Underground too, like their contract and how they were kind of treating their wrestlers. Like the biggest one, obviously, being Prince Puma / Ricochet. Even though this didn't happen yet, but did Ricochet have that issue yet, where like he couldn't work anywhere?
He couldn't work anywhere until after the fourth season or whatever his contract was up.
So this is kind of like when Lucha Underground, like even though the product was great on screen, you found out behind the scenes it wasn't all glitz and glamour. And then I think and then that's pretty much all the company. As for WWE though, I would say like WWE, I feel like we have a bet. I feel like even though the business wasn't doing probably that well, at least in WWE and all that type of stuff, maybe we just have a better memory on it because this is when like we really started to get on fire doing what was at the time the Aftershock Corner, which has now become WWE Aftershock, because we were doing the Aftershock Corner almost like 3 times a week at this point.
Maybe more too, even.
Yeah, because I know it was definitely 3 because this was when I was we did it at school on campus, and I was there like Monday, Wednesday, Fridays type.
That's right. So. Yeah, because I was there Monday, Wednesday, Friday too, so it was only those 3 days.
Yeah. So maybe we just had more fun. Obviously, the business wasn't doing the greatest. Obviously, I'm pretty sure we had like a pretty, I would say, like adequate WrestleMania. In hindsight, now I think it's probably like a pretty mediocre WrestleMania. I think at the time we thought it was like an adequate WrestleMania because we thought The Undertaker had his last match at that show. So we were like kind of okay with that WrestleMania. But now that Undertaker wrestled, I think several more times after that show, that WrestleMania, obviously, when we do a retro for it, isn't as remembered as we wanted it to be. But since I'm going to try to kind of focus this on SmackDown, since that's kind of the big, they obviously had the brand split going on. I think this was the second iteration of the brand split. They tell you that there's only been 2, but let's be real. There's been like several versions that they don't want to talk about. But this is like the second version of the brand split. It had been around not even a year at this time. And I thought it was fairly successful this time around. Not obviously as successful as the first time. I think that obviously there was some issues with this one, but SmackDown was doing really well again during the brand split. SmackDown was really the show to watch, other than like NXT and like stuff like that. But SmackDown was really the show to watch on the main roster. They were pushing all the people that we wanted to get pushed. And they obviously I think it was 2 hours, which helped. I think Raw being 3 hours didn't help the show at all. You would have thought it would have, but I remember Raw was always a slog. I think Raw was sucked at this time. SmackDown was always the better show. I remember on the CM Brothers, which is now the FTW Main Hub channel, I started a show called What's Better, Raw or SmackDown? SmackDown, more often than not, I always thought was the better show because SmackDown really was. It had awesome wrestling, awesome storylines, and it was just a really awesome show at this time. Obviously, SmackDown.
Really good.
Yeah.
With Shane McMahon in charge and everything.
Yeah.
And Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, because Shane McMahon was the commissioner of SmackDown, and Daniel Bryan was the general manager of SmackDown. And that stuck for a while, by the way, until Daniel Bryan pretty much returned to wrestling. Because if you remember, originally on Raw, it was Mick Foley as the GM and Stephanie McMahon as the commissioner. And that really wasn't what we wanted it to be at all. It was really bad, I remember. Yeah. Obviously, when Mick was able to be the GM, but this is kind of like when they started, because Stephanie McMahon was still a heel too. So like there'd be some infighting, and she just basically like cut Mick Foley's dick off pretty much, like shoot him out pretty much.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah. And it didn't get any better. We thought Kurt Angle would be the person. Remember, Kurt Angle was the GM of Raw. We thought he would make it better, but I think he got it worse than fucking Mick did. Kurt Angle got it like really fucking bad. It was so bad. It was so bad we had to have Baron Corbin as GM of Raw for a fucking period of time.
A constable.
Yeah. And then what was he? He wasn't even he was like general manager elected later on, right? Like
he went from constable to like GM something. I forget what the fuck it was, but it was
I think it was But I think it worked on SmackDown because they were both baby faces.
It worked because they're both like you said, they're both baby faces. They're both well liked.
And I feel like too, Daniel Bryan was like actually allowed to be a GM. That was kind of the big criticism we had on Raw. Mick Foley wasn't allowed to be the GM. He was always undermined by Stephanie McMahon. Like, I'm pretty sure you didn't even see Shane McMahon all that much. I remember on SmackDown, unless they were building to like a match for him. I mean, he obviously would show up sometimes, but it was mainly Daniel Bryan on screen running the show pretty much.
It was.
I mean, even though Daniel Bryan always talked about he didn't really want to be the GM because he just wanted to wrestle and they weren't clearing him, but this was like the best, obviously, other than like when he hasn't been a wrestler, like this was like the best time for Daniel Bryan because if you watch his segments and stuff, you can just tell he doesn't give a fuck. He can say whatever the fuck he wants because if he gets released, he can just go wrestle somewhere else. Like that's how good this was. Like if you watch any interview he does at this time, like on screen, he does not give a fuck. He just says whatever the fuck he wants. Like
that's great.
Yeah. Talking Smack too, it started at this time. I think that's what also made SmackDown worth watching because you got some killer promos on Talking Smack. We'll talk about it too since we're gonna cover an episode. Obviously, 205 Live started like in the fall. It was like right after Survivor Series in November. And obviously that wasn't doing too well because WWE, Vince fucked up the Cruiserweight division to the point on Raw where he just never pushed it. They had to basically make a new show instead of, putting it on fucking SmackDown where it should have been. Let's be real, it would have been much better off on SmackDown.
Yeah, the original Cruiserweight division.
They tried to say, well, Raw's 3 hours. It makes sense for it to go to Raw, which I can understand that, but like, let's be real, it should have gone to fucking SmackDown. Like, it should have been the women's division, the entire women's division on Raw and the Cruiserweight division on SmackDown. Because at that time, too, it didn't really make sense to split up the women's division because there weren't that many women at this time on the roster. Like, now you can do it because there's a lot of women now on the roster. Back then, it was kind of slim pickings. Like, there's a segment later on. You'll see what I mean when it's like the entire women's division. But, 205 Live probably wasn't doing all that well. We'll talk. I kind of want to save what we're going to say about it until like later in the show because it's really like an eye opener at that time. But 205 Live wasn't doing all that well. But yeah, let's just start talking about this show now. I think I kind of said everything I wanted to say of what wrestling was like at this time. Let's talk about the behind the scenes kind of what was going on this show because I've never told this story before because I usually try to not tell this story. So, we bought tickets to SmackDown. I bought the tickets, and then you and John paid me back. John paid me back by driving me home, not every day, but most days doing Massasoit. And then I think you just paid me back. Like I think it was like I remember you didn't. I think you paid me back like the next day. So technically you almost had the show for free, but I'm like I need my money, Chris. I was like one of those like mafia guys saying, "Where's my money, Chris? Where is it? Where's that money?" Like.
You were hunting me down.
I would have been the Stewie Griffin or Brian Griffin in that case. Would have been like, would have been beating the shit out of you, just like, where's my fucking money, Chris? Would have been throwing you through fucking windows and just. I probably would have set you on fire wanting my fucking money. Like, where the fuck's my money? Like, where the fuck is it?
You would have.
Yeah, and
you were cruel.
You would have been fucking scared. I don't think you ever would have come to school again. You wouldn't even be here right now, probably.
You would have killed me.
Yeah. I know Brian Griffin survived, so if he can survive, I think you can survive. So, don't do any of this. It's a cartoon type of shit because that's fucking bullshit. People have survived being set on fire before, Chris. Okay, people have survived that shit.
It's a cartoon.
Let's move on. I'm talking about people being set on fire now, and people surviving it. Let's just move the fuck on from that.
Well, Kane did.
Well, we didn't technically see. Actually, we have seen Kane get set on fire before, actually. Technically, he was wearing, but he was wearing like a fire retardant then, though, so that doesn't count. But yeah, let's talk about this show. So so we bought the tickets. I think I bought them too. Like, what? It was before WrestleMania bought them, so we didn't even know there was going to be a shakeup. They obviously announced the tickets in advance and everything like that. And I'll tell you this story because I think you know this story. I like told my grandparents about it and stuff like that, and I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna buy my tickets to SmackDown and stuff like that." And they're like, "Okay." And I think they misread what I was saying. I think they thought it was a question more than me asking for it, because they said, "Yeah, you just got to do well on your," because I had like a math test coming up, and you just got to do well on this math test and everything like that. And then I'm like, "Yeah, I'll totally do well." The second after that conversation happens, I went online, bought the tickets, just bought them. Like I bought, you know the story too, because I've told you this story before. And then the next day I come home from school, and my grandmother sees on my bank information and stuff that I bought the tickets for SmackDown, and they're like, "So I saw you bought the tickets on SmackDown." I'm like, and I went, "Yeah." I'm like, "But didn't we have an agreement that you were supposed to do well in your math test, and then you could buy the tickets?" And you know how I am too. I want to buy the tickets as soon as I can too to get the goods. Yeah. So that's why I bought them so quickly. That's why we wouldn't have had those seats we had if I waited. So I'm like, fuck. And I printed them out and everything. I didn't like go get them off the printer and everything like that too. And because I think this was still at that. I mean, obviously you could still do it on your phone, but this was still at that time where it was better to have them printed out. Now, obviously nowadays, because
right on your phone, like boom, boom, boom. Here's 3 tickets or whatever.
And I have the best. I don't think I had the best phone at the time either, so it was better for me to have them printed out. So, yeah. So, my grandma was like, "Okay, here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna do like you have to get like an A on this math test, or else you're not going to fucking SmackDown." As you know, Chris, I had to fucking study hard for this math. I know you're gonna say, "How did the fuck do you study for a math test?" But I fucking did. I had to study hard for this math test, and make sure I got like a really good grade on this. I had to make sure I went to all my classes. Also, the deal was I had to go to school the next day. Obviously, I was able to do that fine because we'll tell that story someday. It was going to be easier than going to school after WrestleMania 33. You know what I'm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the craziest fucking day.
Yeah.
That day was wild.
Yeah. Let's just say I don't have those notes anymore. The notes of WrestleMania 33 was very interesting that day. So
yeah,
it really sucks. It really sucks that shows like because we still did the show, but it really sucks that version of the show's gone. Like, that's a different reason.
Oh, instead of that, shit went down. Yeah, it was not a good day.
No, I was hungover. It was just bad. Yeah, but I ended up studying for the math test. I get like a 91. So it was you don't realize how fucking close we were. There. Yeah, you don't realize how fucking close we were to not going to SmackDown. That I think you and John would have just fucking gone, and you would have had to find someone else to go with you. And I don't think Steve was able to go because he had already bought. Well, even though he was there, he had already bought his tickets to go with his like father and stuff. So if Steve was going to be out, you would have had to like probably sell that ticket or something. So. Yeah,
we're just not going.
Yeah, so it was that bad. But yeah, we ended up being able to go to SmackDown. It's the only time you've actually left your house to go somewhere. Because I remember we met up at John's that day. It's the only time I've seen you like leave. Well, obviously you've gone to Massasoit, but it's the only time. It's the only time you've like left your house to for like an activity to go to your friend's house and stuff like that. So it's like that's pretty damn awesome. I think John drove, but I remember we took the train in, and that's going to be a story for what happens after we left.
Jesus Christ. I remember that now. That was fucking funny.
Yeah. I might let you tell that story. Then we get to the arena. It was pretty normal afterwards. I don't remember exactly what we did for dinner. I think we just got food at the venue. I remember we got a t-shirt, and I got like the, I was there SmackDown Superstar Shakeup t-shirt. And I think they just had everyone that would have gotten
Yeah.
shaken up for SmackDown because I don't have the T-shirt on because I'm not at home right now, but and I think it's up in the attic anyways. So
I wore mine a few weeks ago, WrestleMania night. It was the blue John Cena shirt.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think we got food at the venue. It was the first time it's the first time I bought a beer at the venue, and I think you and John made that very specific. You only get one beer, and let's just say it ended up being warm anyway, so I was only getting one anyway.
It was
fucking
overpriced.
yeah. It's fucking terrible. The worst beer I think I've ever had anywhere.
Awful. The TD Garden is beer in general sucks, but like if you're buying it at like a venue, a ballpark, whatever, it's fucking like triple the price.
And it was mostly foam, I think, too. Like when
it was like half foam.
Yeah. But like I also typically now I try not to get drunk at wrestling events because I have the opposite problem where my memory's just gone. I don't remember anything that happens after I get drunk. I think the time I got drunk at your fourth party, James and you had to clue me in about what the fuck happened. Like because I was just gone. I didn't even know what was going on. So
you were shattered.
Yeah, but you know, then the show started. Obviously the set. So our seats. We're very close. I don't think we really knew because sometimes it's tough to know how good your seats are because you see it on the thin, but like it's obviously tough until you get there, type of thing.
Yeah.
But they ended up being really awesome seats. The only thing that sucked is we couldn't really see like them come out on the stage, and we're gonna talk about that later. Obviously, it was the traditional set that you see nowadays for Smack. Well, let me be more specific about that because the set for SmackDown's different now. But it's like the Raw set. Except it's SmackDown. Obviously, that's changed since SmackDown went to Fox now and stuff. It's like it's a different set now. And I remember we had a dark match. I think it was Breezango versus the Ascension. I think was the dark match.
It was. I remember that now. Yeah.
I think Breezango had. I don't think they turned babyface. I think they would just do. I think they were only babyface doing the dog matches. I remember they were turning babyface like shortly after this, but obviously, the Ascension were the Ascension. They were being jobbed out left and right. I think Breezango won that match. I remember that match being like pretty okay. It wasn't very long. I think it started like 10 minutes before SmackDown comes, so they was just kind of get your shit in and get out of there type of thing.
Yeah, it was.
What did you think? Do you remember that match at all, or like anything about it?
I remember screaming "Welcome home" to Fandango. That's about it.
Yeah, that's it. And then, that was pretty much it for that show. Career retrospectives, we won't do Breezango since we're not going to do a lot of career retrospectives since we're doing a Backlash 2017 retro. And most of the wrestlers that are at this show up at Backlash anyways. So we're not going to do one for Breezango since they show up at Backlash. I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure I remember doing one for the Ascension. I'm pretty sure they show up. So you can watch the Raw after WrestleMania 31 retro that James and I did. We did a career retrospective for the Ascension on that show. I don't think much has changed because that was a few weeks ago. But that's pretty much that right there. Then the show started. We had the commentary team, and the commentary team came out, and the commentary team was JBL, Tom Phillips, and Byron Saxton.
Just a random trio now. If you think about it.
JBL, they came out to JBL's theme music too, because if you remember, Tom and Byron didn't have theme music at the time. They still don't, honestly. Like nowadays, if there's a wrestler, if they were a wrestler before, like when it's like JBL or something, they'll just come out to like their theme music. The only commentator that like never wrestled really on full time that has theme music is Cole, obviously, because he's been there long enough and stuff. And it's like that. You've heard it before. It's like that generic music that he has. It's like I can't even describe it, but
it's generic as fuck.
Very I remember this. Everybody booed the fuck out of JBL like worse than usual because if you remember, this was at that time when that story came out because Mauro Ranallo had just been phased out of commentary until later in the year because there was those reports going around that like he was being bullied by like JBL like doing commentary and things like that.
Oh yeah,
and everyone
crazy.
Yeah, like everyone was chanting "Fire Bradshaw." I don't remember when this happens. I remember at some point in the show there was like a guy that went on, because we were like by the camera side too. A guy goes behind the commentary position and throws up a sign that said like "Fire Bradshaw." He got like thrown out of the arena type of thing.
He got dragged out of the fucking arena.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember everyone was booing JBL, and this was at that time when you hated Tom Phillips. I think you still hate Tom Phillips, but obviously not as much now since he's not on screen much as now. But you hated Tom Phillips at this time. You were chanting, "I hate you, Tom Phillips. Fuck off. Fuck you, Tom Phillips." Like, you hated Tom Phillips at this time. Do you want to kind of go through? Yeah, do you want to go through that a little bit? Like,
I just didn't like him. I don't know why. And then the thing came out where it was like, I don't even think it was true, but like he said, like he wanted to fuck some girl in the face. He wanted to fuck some girl's face for some reason.
I think I remember too.
Fuck her for some reason.
You hated him also at this time because you liked Rich Brennan, and I think
Rich Brennan was awesome. And then he fucking took over for Rich Brennan. I was like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah, that was pretty true, yeah. And yeah, then the show started. They were still doing Pyro at this time. Because if you remember, Pyro goes, I mean, obviously Pyro's coming back, but Pyro went away for, unless it was like a big show, like right after this. So it went away for like a while. And then we had the show. And yeah, this show was exciting, like we said, because it was the Superstar Shakeup. We kind of didn't really know who was going to show up because, we got a lot of surprises. But before we get into that, there's a WWE.com exclusive where Daniel Bryan like previews the draft, and Byron Saxton comes up to him and interrupts him, and he asks Daniel Bryan if he needs anything, like he was trying to be an assistant to him and stuff. And this is obviously a big deal because if you remember, Byron Saxton moved over to SmackDown because he was on Raw for a while, and then he moved over to SmackDown. I'm pretty sure it was David Otunga who was on SmackDown, and he was meant to move over to Raw, but then I think he had like an acting gig or something coming up, so Booker T took his place. And I think they just kept it that way. Like, he never came back to the behind the booth ever again. We won't do a career retrospective on Otunga since he's not actually on these shows. I'm just kind of talking right there. Or Booker T, we've done it anyways, but there's no reason to do that. But when Mae Young and Daniel Bryan were talking about the Superstar Shakeup and things like that and who they wanted to see, and when Mae Young asked Daniel Bryan like who they don't want to see leave SmackDown, and Daniel Bryan said, "I really don't want to see the big hog, James Ellsworth." This is when he started calling him the big hog. And like, again, this is like no fucks given anymore. He just says whatever the fuck he wants. It's like, I don't want to see the big hog, James Ellsworth, leave SmackDown. I want to see him stay on SmackDown. He's a star. And you could obviously tell he wasn't being legit there. He was just taking the piss pretty much. It was really hilarious. Like I said, I love no fucks given. SmackDown GM Daniel Bryan, and
he's extremely goofy around this period of time.
Yeah. We won't do a career retrospective on Daniel Bryan. We've done it before.
A lot of times.
I will say, I think this is like one of the last shows he works for a while because Birdie was born shortly after this. They say on this show, at least on Talkin' Smack, we'll talk about it later, that she was due like 2 weeks from here, but I'm pretty sure he might have worked one more SmackDown, but I'm pretty sure Birdie was born like shortly, like he because he obviously goes on like paternity leave and stuff. So, Daniel obviously this is like one of the last SmackDown he works. So then we had the intro where it kind of shows like everybody that's moved over from Raw and things like that, shows the intro to SmackDown. And then the first thing that happens on SmackDown was Kevin Owens comes out. And up until like recently, this is the loudest pop in WWE. I guess on the main roster anyways. He's got a pretty big pop in NXT when he debuted. But this was like the biggest pop I think Kevin Owens has ever received up until fairly recently. Because no one expected to see Kevin Owens on SmackDown. Like, he was legit on Raw the night before. So like, okay, so he's probably staying on Raw. But Kevin Owens comes out, and if you remember, like, because we all did too, the place like explodes when Kevin Owens comes out.
Yeah. That was crazy.
Yeah. And this is he comes out, he's the United States champion at the time. This is the time where he started his face of the face of the America gimmick. This is the first time he came out like with the suit And what sucked is the reason that he came out with a suit is because Vince McMahon thought he was overweight and he wanted him to start wearing suits. Obviously, this goes away like not long after this because I think Vince realized that was stupid. But Kevin Owens made it work.
Like he always does with pretty much everything.
Yeah. He at the time he was the face of the America. He had just had his feud with Chris Jericho. It was still kind of going on at this time, but obviously we'll talk about that, what happens with that later. He gets on the mic and he cuts a promo talking about how now SmackDown is the new Kevin Owens show, how he's the face of America. He obviously does the typical Boston, because they're in Boston. I'm pretty sure he did the hockey heat because he's a hockey fan. So he talked about like how his team knocked Boston out of the playoffs and all that type of stuff. Not knocked him out, but had before and all that type of stuff. He speaks in French. Everybody booed this, obviously, except me because I'm not a sports person. And even though it's the typical,
it was mean.
Yeah, even though it was the typical sports heat, I thought Kevin Owens added new stuff to it. But one thing you notice in the Vince era versus the Triple H era is when Triple H does the sports heat, it's at least something different. You can just see it's always the same thing. I mean, that they say in the Vince era when they go for the sports heat, it's always the same.
It is. It's generic.
Kevin Owens then talks about how he's going to make SmackDown his show, and then he gets interrupted by Baron Corbin. And let's be real, I think a lot of people, this is when Baron Corbin was still relatively good at this time. I think we all pretty much liked Baron Corbin. He was doing really well at this time. We didn't love Baron Corbin, obviously, but like this is before he gets like really bad at this time, like really bad. He was still on the uprise too. They were utilizing him like relatively well, and Baron Corbin talks about how he's not up here to stick up for these fans, but he's out here because he wants a United States Championship match because he beat the Intercontinental Champion on SmackDown last week. And he feels like he's owed a title match, but since Ambrose ran away to Raw, he feels like that he could go for Kevin Owens' United States title. And if the logic he uses is that since he beat Ambrose and Ambrose beat Owens, beating Kevin Owens should be no problem. And who came out right after this? None other than Sami fucking Zayn. And the crowd went ballistic when Sami Zayn came out. And we all kind of laughed too, because this was at that time where, like, it's still kind of like this now where Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were inseparable at this time. Like, it's like no matter what happened, they always ended up on the same show somehow. So I remember we all chanted, like, laughed our ass off at the same, it was like surreal if you hear it. Like, you hear chants, but then everyone just kind of breaks out into like a fucking laugh too, like because it's just so funny. And Kevin Owens, we didn't see his reaction because like his back was turned to us, but we kind of pictured it. The reaction that Kevin Owens has is fucking surreal because he has like this annoyed look on his face because no matter what he does, he just can't fucking escape Sami Zayn. Like
he was so mad.
Yeah, and Kevin Owens even gets on the mic after this, like, no, this can't be. You can't be on SmackDown. This can't be happening. Like, he was so pissed about it. And all Sami Zayn says is like, yes, Kevin, I'm on SmackDown now. And that's all Sami really needed to say because, like, the fact that he was there, I think, was enough of a reaction and stuff. Like, Sami didn't need to cut this long promo. I do have to say, by the way, it's really hard to believe this is the same guy because Sami Zayn looks homeless nowadays. Like, it's hard to believe this is the same guy from like years ago. Like the appearance of Sami Zayn has changed so much. I don't even think you would believe it's the same guy. Like, then AJ Styles comes out, and AJ Styles had literally just turned babyface because he right after WrestleMania. It was kind of random, but we were kind of okay with it because AJ Styles had kind of done everything he could do as like a heel at that point. The only way he could really stay heel is if he went to Raw, but since he didn't go to Raw, it made sense for him to be a babyface on SmackDown because they lost the big heel in The Miz to the Superstar Shakeup the night before, so AJ kind of had to turn babyface here. He talks about how he made SmackDown the face that ran the place. No, sorry, the show that it is. He's the face that runs the place, and he talks about how he's the standard bearer of SmackDown and stuff, and he wants a title match. So Daniel Bryan comes out, and he announces that even though Kevin Owens is on SmackDown, the fate of the U.S. title is still undecided. Because if you remember, they had booked the match between Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho for the United States title at Payback, which is a Raw pay-per-view. So pretty much they say that that match is, the U.S. title can't be defended until that match has been decided. But they can crown a number one contender, so he makes a triple threat match between AJ Styles, Baron Corbin, and Sami Zayn for the main event of SmackDown. This was an awesome segment here. It really delivered. And I loved it. Like, probably if you just watch this on TV, it's still like a good segment, but being there live and just remembering how it was really awesome live.
Crazy.
What did you think of this?
This was I liked it. Just sort of introducing new people and to the brand, and it was AJ Styles fucking insane. Kevin, AJ, and Sammy took the fucking roof off the place, especially AJ.
Yeah,
that was deafening.
Yeah,
like that was awesome.
It really was. We won't do career retrospectives on anybody since they all show up at Backlash 2017. We'll just save it for that show. I think we've done one on Sami Zayn before.
We have.
I'm pretty sure we have. If we haven't, we'll just do it there.
Kevin, I think we've done one on Kevin Owens too also.
I'm not sure, though, so don't quote me on that. But if we haven't, we're doing it at Backlash 2017. So then we had the first match on the show. I forgot this was the first match, because the match I thought was the first match doesn't happen until like much later. But it's Eric Rowan versus Randy Orton. I forgot this even happened, but
I did too.
It did happen. There's a reason we forgot about it, though. Randy Orton at this time was the WWE champion. He had just beaten Bray Wyatt in the WrestleMania 33 match, which let's just say we won't talk about it, but that's kind of what causes why one of the episodes of the Aftershock Corner isn't really a thing, that WrestleMania match. Or it was like the starting block of why it wasn't a thing. Obviously, it was a slow build, but we won't talk anymore about that. They were him and Bray Wyatt were feuding. However, Bray Wyatt went to Raw during the Superstar Shakeup, so
they're good team party, right? Like basically.
It wasn't right away, but it was shortly after this. Yes, if you remember, he goes to Raw and he's he almost was Sister Abigail, if you remember.
The Finn Balor feud. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. The less said about that, the better. Let's just say. I'd rather talk about the situation we're trying not to talk about over that.
I mean, right. So.
Yeah.
We did a retro for that Raw.
Yeah. But anyhow, this is when we got the announcement. I don't think we knew about it because we didn't see it, but we got the announcement that there was going to be a House of Horrors match at Payback between Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. For some reason, it wasn't for the belt because Bray Wyatt was on Raw. I couldn't compete for the belt, even though Chris Jericho could still compete for the U.S. title, even though he's on Raw. So that didn't really make sense.
It didn't make sense.
Obviously, if we ever do a retro for Payback, we'll talk about that match because that match is let's just say it's an interesting match right there. But yeah, this match here was really a squash. Randy Orton completely destroys Eric Rowan. He hits all of his signature moves on him and stuff. There's this bit where Eric Rowan goes to the outside thinking he's outsmarted Randy Orton, and he just takes his head off with a clothesline and pushes him into the steps. It's really weird. And Randy Orton goes for his finisher, the RKO. Bray Wyatt comes on the screen and tells Randy Orton that he smells of fear about what the Firefly Funhouse could be and what that could possibly end up being. And tells him that It was really weird because the promo that he cut, he says, "I sense that our paths are crossed again because I see everything." And if you listen to that promo, it doesn't even make any sense that he would say that because they tried to make it seem like he could see the future. But I'm like, you realize your match is already booked, right? We already know this is gonna happen. Like you're trying to say like, oh, I can see the future type of thing. And it's like, wait, but we already know your match is gonna happen. So what are you doing right there? And then after this promo, Randy Orton goes to the outside. Eric Rowan hits him off the head with the steps, which causes a DQ. Bounces his head off the announce table, puts him in the ring, hits a full Nelson slam on him. That was it. I give this match a star and 3/4. I remember at the time, even live being there, we didn't like out this match all that much, and we were really confused of how it ended because it just randomly ends. Like Randy Orton gets completely owned here, and it was really confusing. I didn't get this at all. What did you think of this?
I thought this match absolutely sucked. I guess they had to tie in the House of Horrors match into it, but yeah, this match sucked.
Yeah,
and I kind of remember that finish because we just looked at each other and we're like, "That's it." Like that's I was like, "That's fucking lame."
I think John even said that.
Yeah, I give it a star. Like it's just awful. It was just not a good match.
I remember Johnny was like, "What was that?" Like we were all like, "What the fuck was that?"
It was awful.
That? Yeah. Then we had
Randy gets distracted, and then the match ends like 30 seconds later. Like what the hell?
It didn't make any sense. Because I remember, even it wasn't just us either. Like the crowd was even like, we looked at the crowd like they were like, "What was that?" Like they didn't know what it was.
Everyone just booed. Like I was like, okay, like I guess no one likes it.
Yeah, they had every right not to too. Like, next match was the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match. It was the Usos defending against American Alpha. If you remember that tag team, it seems so long ago now.
It really was.
The reason for this match was the Usos had won the SmackDown Tag Team titles right before WrestleMania, pretty much, from American Alpha. They were kind of feuding at this time. They never got their rematch. You would have thought they would have, but they never did. They just did the rematch here for reasons that just happened, and that was it. It really sucks because I know as epic as the Usos New Day feud becomes later, they really could have had like an epic feud between American Alpha and the Usos. Obviously, they weren't going to get to that level just because the New Day and the Usos are bigger stars and everything like that. But they could have had like
that they had like in that feud between the New Day and the Usos was top tier.
Yeah, but they really could have had that here though, because we've seen American Alpha have top tier tag matches. Before. So it's like I don't get it. They were really. American Alpha's time on the main roster was just really bad. Like, it really wasn't what it should have been. We'll talk about that later. Going through the match, it was really good. Apparently, American Alpha don't get an entrance. We didn't know this because we see the entrances no matter what, so everyone gets an entrance. But this match was really good live. American Alpha dominate the match early, hitting a lot of really good amateur moves on the Usos. One of the Usos, I don't know which one now because this is at the time. Obviously, you can tell which Uso's which now because Jay shaved his hair, but we obviously don't know which one is which nowadays. I'm sorry, back then, anyways. Nowadays, we do.
Yeah, you couldn't tell all back then because it's until the announcers told you.
Yeah, but obviously because it's a review show, we don't keep track of it. But the Usos get the heat on Chad Gable. They dominate him for a while. Eventually, Jason Jordan makes the hot tag. He starts going off on everyone. Then the match gets like really good. The Usos hit some really cool dives, which was cool because the Usos didn't do dives anymore because they were heels still. So like it was very rare they did dives. American Alpha hit Jason Jordan puts one of the Usos up on his shoulders, and Chad Gable comes off the top of the Bulldog, but it doesn't get the win. One of the Usos, Chad Gable, locks him into a cross arm breaker across the ropes, and the other Uso hits a super kick onto Chad Gable behind the ref's back. And the Uso that had the cross arm, but I'm glad that we can tell the Usos apart now because covering an Usos match is not easy when you don't know which one is which. But
exactly.
The other Uso that got the cross arm breaker on him goes to go off the top for a splash. Chad Gable gets his knees up, rolls him up, but kicks out. And then eventually there's a blind tag made. And one of the Usos hits a super kick, and the legal Uso hits a splash for the win. And the Usos retain the SmackDown Tag Team titles. This match was really good. It ruled live, but I give it like 3.5 stars. This match was really good. Before we talk about the next thing that happens, what did you think of this match overall?
This match is really fucking good. This is a really good match.
Yeah.
Like I said, this could have been a series.
Yeah.
I think it really could have benefited everyone involved if it was a series. But yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. Think about how much better the New Day feud would have been too if the Usos like had the series too with American Alpha right before this too. Like, I mean, they're gonna tell us it was a series, but it really wasn't a series. They were just like randomly having matches on SmackDown. Like they didn't even get to WrestleMania with the fucking title match. But after this, the Shining Stars jump the barricade. They throw Jason Jordan into the post, and they pick up Chad Gable. I think Epico picks him up in a powerbomb position, and he power bombs into Primo, who does like a backstab combination, which was cool. And yeah, everybody booed this, and they're gonna say, "Well, that's great. They're getting heel heat," but it wasn't. It was go away heat because everybody wanted this to be Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. They really wanted to see Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, because at the time they were being used really bad on Raw. They were. I think this was when they became comedic. Which they're funny guys, anyways. We've seen them be comedy, but we didn't want them to be comedy at this time. We wanted to be this kick-ass tag team, and we wanted them on SmackDown because AJ was on SmackDown. And even though they wouldn't have been able to probably do the club reunion or anything like that, but at least they could have done something on SmackDown. They would have had much of a better chance on SmackDown. At the time, we thought so, anyways. And the Shining Stars thing really sucked because it was not the team we wanted. So what did you think of that bit there? The Shining Stars attacking American Alpha.
I remember liking it at the time, and yeah, it could have been obviously it would have been better being Gallows than Anderson, but yeah. And
I'll say this too. Even though they're the Shining Stars, they weren't really. They obviously transitioned just to be like Primo and Epico. At the time, they were they were like the rip off. I remember what it's called, but they were pretty much con artists, pretty much where they sold like a hotel at Puerto Rico, like a timeshare Puerto Rico, but you knew it was like they were being con artists and all that type of stuff. But that gimmick didn't get over, obviously, so they switched back to just being Primo and Epico. And doing a career retrospective, we've done one on Primo before, and I'll just say this: basically, take Primos and Epicos is the same, pretty much, because
literally the same.
Yeah. We've done one on Jason Jordan. American Alpha obviously wouldn't last much longer as a tag team. Pretty much this was their last tag match together. Obviously, Jason Jordan went to Raw to be Kurt Angle's son because, obviously Kurt Angle wanted his son on the same brand as him. And obviously that led to some comedic stuff. And we've talked about what happened since then. Chad Gable has never really gotten off the ground much in WWE. We thought he was going to be a big single star when he was split up. Then they just put him in another tag team. And I hate to say this, it's going to sound racist. They just basically made American Alpha 2.0 with Shelton Benjamin. That's basically what they did. Slash World's Greatest Tag Team. Huh?
Yeah, it's basically like World's Greatest Tag Team.
Yeah, and they didn't do much. They didn't really do much together. And then they put Chad Gable on Raw. He didn't do much on Raw. He randomly teamed with Bobby Roode for no fucking reason. They won the tag titles. They did become a decent team.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, I think
they wore matching tights though.
Yeah, right when they started getting over as a team, though, they fucking broke them up, and Chad Gable went back to SmackDown. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
I don't think they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, and then on SmackDown, he had a killer match with Jack Gallagher, two of them on 205 Live. He did really well in the King of the Ring tournament, and then reports came out that he was going to be changed to Shorty G, and they never materialized. And I always notice this happen with Vince, like in the later stages. There would be reports that something's going to happen, and then it wouldn't happen, and then we think it's not going to happen, and then he just do it anyways. It's like
it's so bizarre.
Yeah, because then right when the report stopped, he fucking turned him into Shorty G. Like, oh, I swerved you guys. It didn't happen when you thought it was going to happen, and then it wouldn't be a swerve because we already knew it was going to happen. So it's like, what are you doing? Like, do you just know it's being reported, so you just don't do it, and then by the time you do it, you think you're swerving us, but it's like. That's his favorite. That was his favorite thing to do, and then he'd think it's a swerve, but it isn't a swerve because it had been reported for months anyway. He just delayed it, so that it was just weird. But I know they kind of did that recently with the Trish Stratus turn, but I feel like the Trish Stratus turn would have happened sooner had Vince not rewritten a Raw last minute. Yeah, so Chad Gable went to SmackDown. He was Shorty G. He did really bad as Shorty G. They finally fucking turned him back to Chad Gable. He started out for Academy with Otis. They started out as baby faces, and then they turned heel. They actually have done really well as a team. They've won the Raw tag titles once. They didn't make it to Mania as tag champs, but they were like in high contention for them. And now they're teasing a split up where Otis is possibly going to be a male model with Maximum Male Models. He might just be by himself now because you haven't seen the other guys recently. And then Chad Gable might be going to SmackDown in the draft by himself, but we'll talk about that later. So Chad Gable's WWE career, it really wasn't going all that well up until Triple H took over creatively. He started doing a little bit better. We would like him to do a little bit better, but he is doing better than he was like before when Vince was in charge. And we've done a career retrospective on the Usos. The only thing new we'll say about them is they've just recently lost the tag titles at WrestleMania. They might win them back on SmackDown. So, the next match here. This is the match I thought was the opener. And this is the reason we're doing all these retros. We have Mojo Rawley versus Jinder Mahal.
God damn it.
Jinder doesn't get an entrance, I don't think. Which is funny in hindsight. We'll talk about that. But the reason for this match is because Mojo Rawley had won and Jinder Mahal were the last two guys in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Jinder Mahal had moved over to SmackDown. He was originally on Raw. So it says on Wikipedia he moved over like he was like a that just shows you how he wasn't even an on-screen like pick. He moved over right before SmackDown. That just shows you what they thought of him at the time.
Yeah.
And Mojo Rawley Jinder Mahal and Mojo Rawley, they fought in the Battle Royal, and this is where he has the Gronk face-off, where Gronk, I think it was meant to be a tackle, but it's more of a shoulder block. But I think it was supposed to be a tackle.
Yeah,
slash a spear.
Just because he's a big uncoordinated goof.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Gronk injured too at this time? Like he was just coming. Like he was.
I think he might have been, or just coming back.
Yeah. So that's why
that's before the Patriots. When the Patriots had gone to the Super Bowl the following year.
Yeah. And he always missed the Super Bowl, I think, right? He'd never he's the only one to be on a winning team, and I don't think he's ever competed in the Super Bowl on the Patriots, I think.
A couple. He has, but he was a non-factor in the last one.
I just remember it was a running joke for a while that two had talked about. He would never make it. Anytime the Patriots.
Just his play style. He was always hurt.
Yeah. What sucked because it led to him getting signed to WWE later on and then not getting signed. But we'll talk about that later. But so Gronk cost, and then Mojo won the Battle Royal. So that's why they were doing this rematch. They were obviously only really doing this match because it was in Boston, and we saw Gronk sit in front row. I don't think we saw him move there. I think it was very discreet. We'll talk about what happens later.
Because we saw him leave.
Yeah, but you and John were surprised because even though I'm not a sports guy, I had no clue who Gronk was up until WrestleMania 33. I don't think you were surprised that much because how the hell would I have heard about him if I don't watch sports? And I don't talk to anyone about him. I fucking shut that shit down if someone tries to talk to me about sports. There's a lot of conversations I shut down. Politics, that gets immediately shut down. Cars, I hate talking about cars. Sports, I'd rather talk about sports over cars. And politics, obviously. So that's why. What else do I? Commercials. Anyone says, "Oh, have you seen this commercial?" I don't watch commercials. I immediately I say it really fast too, so that way I can just get out of that.
Fuck, now I know what to talk to you about now.
Yeah. So there's very
especially politics.
There's something else I don't like to talk about too, but those are the four main things I don't like to. Those are the four main things I don't like to talk about is politics, cars, sports, and commercials. Obvious, even when other people talk about them, my brain goes on fucking vacation for a while. So That explains why I haven't gotten my license either, because then I gotta buy a car and I gotta talk about cars. I'm like, yep, no thank you. No thank you. What a fucking child. I'm such a fucking child, by the way.
Guy.
Huh?
You should be a car guy.
Yeah. What a fucking child I am. I put myself in situations when I don't want to talk about those 4 things. That's why when I'm on like dating apps, if I see they like those 4 things, except commercials, because obviously who would put that on a dating app?
Who the fuck puts that in their bio? I love commercials. Let's talk about them.
Yeah. But anyhow, if I see that like sports, politics, or cars, I immediately swipe left. It's an immediate swipe left, because then I'm like, wait, then I got to talk about this stuff. So, but anyhow, going back to the match, which is weird because a lot of people say this weird thing about wrestling. I don't like to really call wrestling a sport, but I like wrestling because then it leads to like me having to talk about sports. So that's why I have like a weird relationship when it comes to that. But going through the match though. So yeah, should we talk about this now? We won't really mention where it leads to, since we'll talk about it more when we do the Backlash retro. But there's a chant that you do during this match that kind of is the reason we're here. I think it was right before. It was right before the match too, right? I think you chanted it.
Yeah.
So you want to mention that chant?
Well, so Jinder, being Jinder, he looks shredded.
Mm-hmm.
And my initial chant was, please test Jinder.
Yeah.
I wanted him to test Jinder because he literally looked like he was on steroids.
Yeah.
But they did. They tested him right to the fucking top of the card.
They tested him all right. That's a big thing Chris and I joke around about. Anytime we talk about this show or anything like that, we're like, oh, you chant. I think you've heard us talk about it probably too. He chanted chest Jinder. Oh, they tested him all right. It was a big fucking test. And let's just say he didn't pass that test either. Like, he failed that test with fun. He probably, you know what the funny thing is too? If they had tested him the way, he probably would have passed the test you wanted him to get. He failed the test that he actually got worse than he. That's how funny this is. Like, again, we'll talk about that some more when we do Backlash 2017 retro. This match here was kind of whatever. Jinder dominates the match early, really takes over the match. And then he hits a high knee in the corner. He notices Gronk in the crowd. I don't think we knew Gronk was in the crowd at this point because we didn't see him like alive or anything like that. We did. So Jinder goes over to ringside, starts mouthing off with Gronk. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name for a second there. Gronk throws a beer in his face, which is what Jinder did to him. And I didn't realize like he was dousing this beer because obviously we didn't see it being ringside and stuff, but he was like covered in fucking beer. Like it's not like his face was just covered, like his whole body almost was covered in fucking beer. And it wasn't just Jinder too. Like they got on the camera. I think Gronk got like JBL a little bit with the beer. It was bad. Like it was like what the fuck? How the fuck did this beer get like this wet? Like he must have filled this fucking beer to the brim. Like
it looked like
Gronk is it like Gronk got a better server than I fucking did? Like I couldn't even get my beer filled this high. And it's weird because I had like a fucking tall glass too. He had like a plastic cup. It's like how the fuck did his beer? I think he had more beer than I fucking did. Like the fuck? I mean, I guess it's Gronk, but come on. I pay good. Like Gronk probably didn't even pay for that. Like what the fuck? Come on, man.
Fucking didn't.
Then Mojo
Rawley like 77 times.
Yeah, because that was Vince's favorite thing at the time. Where, oh yeah, they show it 7 times. Like we didn't see it. I think.
I was like, okay, we've seen. Yeah. Okay, this is now the 3rd time now they've shown it in a row.
Yep.
Okay, now this is it. Slow down.
Yeah. Mojo puts Jinder in the ring, and he hits like a right fist into the corner and pins Jinder for the win. I give this like a 2. I think the reason I gave it a 2 is probably really like a 1, but just because of the memory of you saying please test Jinder and where this leads to, it's like a funny kind of thing now. So that's why I gave it like a 2. What did you think of this?
I give it a 1.5. Because of the catastrophe that was to come.
Yeah. Zero did say, imagine the Usos doing twin magic. They have done that before, I'm pretty sure.
They used to do that a ton.
But they can't do it now because they look different. Remember when the Bella twins tried to do twin magic, like later, like after Brie got like a breast implant and all that type of stuff, and it didn't really work. Like everyone knew, like the referee fell for it, but like everyone knew it wasn't fucking Nikki and stuff. That was funny.
It's like, come on. There's clearly a difference here. You can't do twin magic when one has fake tits and one doesn't have any tits.
I remember too, like at Money in the Bank, it was like a couple of years before this. They tried to like counteract it by having like Brie stuff a bra and all that type of stuff. And I remember she gets pinned, and then she goes, "No, I'm Brie," and she like pulls out the toilet paper and stuff. And the ref just reversed the match and stuff. Like it was so stupid. We'll talk about that. It's funny.
I'm Brie. See, I don't have tits.
Yeah. Now she kind of does, so because she's had to breastfeed and all that type of stuff. So the body changed. Anyhow, moving on. We had Shane McMahon state of the SmackDown Women's Division. Obviously, we knew someone was moving over. Shane McMahon comes out and he talks about how exciting the Superstar Shakeup has been, and he says that the women's division is getting shooken up now. And he brings out the entire women's division, which at the time was Carmella, Naomi, who was the SmackDown Women's Champion, Natalya, and Becky Lynch. You can see why it was stupid to split the women's up, because that's fucking 4 women of the entire women's division. Because originally Alexa Bliss and Mickie James were on SmackDown, but they moved over to Raw during the Superstar Shakeup. Shane McMahon talks about how, SmackDown is the land of opportunity and how they want to give other people opportunity. And he introduces the first newest actors. And this is also at the time where James Ellsworth is there. Before he can really introduce anybody, he cuts a mic and he cuts like this heel promo, trashing Boston, and trashing the fans and talking about how great Carmella was. As if you remember, he was with Carmella at this time. Shane McMahon, I remember too, like, doesn't really respond to James Ellsworth. He just kind of moves on and like continues to talk about what he was going to talk about. Like that, like the promo didn't even happen, which is kind of funny because the same thing happens to him earlier this year where he was in a match and then they acted like he was never there. So that was funny. Funny how like that works out. Shane McMahon then introduces, and the way he describes it, he acts like it's going to be Charlotte Flair that's going to be moving over. And because he mentions he's like the daughter of a Hall of Famer, does all this stuff, second generation and stuff. And it's not Charlotte Flair, though. It's Tamina.
Tamina, let's go.
I got to admit, we all booed this, but this was a great trick by the WWE to do this. Because everyone thought it was going to be Charlotte Flair because they described her that way. And it ended up being Tamina. And I remember, too, everybody chanted for Sasha Banks, too, because this was in Boston, and everyone wanted to see Sasha Banks, which made sense at the time. It probably would have been better off in hindsight if Sasha did go to SmackDown. The only reason they kept her on Raw, we thought, was she was going to feud with Bayley for the Raw Women's title, but they never do that feud, so she should have just switched to SmackDown anyways. It would have been better off, but Shane acts like he's going to leave, and then he's like, wait, I forgot, there's another superstar coming over. And then Charlotte Flair comes out. Well, I guess just Charlotte at the time. She wasn't Charlotte Flair yet. And we all cheered for this. Where we were sitting, though, we didn't actually see Charlotte Flair because I think the ring was in the way of the stage. So it's as if you saw it, it's just like they played her music. She never came out, but because we knew she was there, obviously, because she had the robe and everything like that. But we actually didn't see Charlotte Flair technically live on SmackDown because the ring was in the way. But I thought the segment was good. I thought it was a good way to launch the women's division. It was very by the numbers, though. I would have just preferred they did like a tag match and just had like Charlotte Flair and Tamina come out like during the match or something. I thought this was like a very scripted way to introduce everyone. But the segment overall was still like a thumbs up. What did you think?
I thought it was a good segment. And eventually it's just to get to Charlotte anyway, so it's not.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad.
People still cheered for Charlotte. They still wanted to see Sasha, which they didn't get, but Charlotte, they still liked Charlotte enough. It made sense, obviously, for Charlotte to go to SmackDown because she had done everything she could do on Raw at that point. She was the champion several times, and there was only so much you could do with Charlotte. I think she had faced everyone she would have faced on Raw, so there was really not a lot you could do with Charlotte on Raw at that time. Obviously, Tamina going to SmackDown was kind of whatever. It made sense, but it wasn't like it changed the game or anything like that. As we've seen, it didn't. So there's that. Then they announced other names. I don't think we saw this, but this does happen. Other names that are going to be going over to SmackDown, which were Sin Cara. He was going from Raw to SmackDown. At the time, he was in the Cruiserweight division, so that meant he couldn't be in the division anymore since he was going to SmackDown. And Rusev was going to SmackDown. It's really funny because he had just cut his hair at this point. And it's funny because you could tell WWE clearly didn't like this because the graphic they used for him is when he has his long hair, not even his short hair, which is funny. Obviously, these draft picks didn't really work out. We've done a career retrospective on both of these guys, but Sin Cara really didn't work out. He didn't really do much. He was pretty much out of the company shortly after this. I guess he was out. I guess not. Well, I guess in a couple of years, but he was pretty much being phased out. He really didn't do much anymore on the main roster. He would only be utilized sparingly. Rusev, I would say, should have worked out bigger. Obviously, Rusev Day would come out of this. So it's kind of like it is what it is type of thing. Rusev really should have been a bigger deal than he is. And he's still not as big of a deal as he should be. Like I feel like Rusev is being done dirty. But what did you think when you heard that these picks for the Superstar Shakeup? Yeah.
All right.
I was kind of happy for Rusev because I thought he'd be used better on SmackDown. Because at the time on Raw he was being shat on. But it didn't really work out that way like we wanted it to. Then the next match was Aiden English versus Ty Dillinger. Ty Dillinger had just gotten called up to the main roster. He didn't do all that much in the beginning, but he was still obviously new to the main roster. I'm pretty sure he had like a couple more NXT matches because NXT was taped at this time. So that's obviously he was finishing out his NXT date still. Aiden English does a really good song here where he talks about how great he is and all that type of stuff. This is when he was doing the sinning gimmick. We had the match. It's not really a long match. Eventually, Ty Dillinger wins with the tiebreaker, which this version of it is basically the Ushika-Roshi version. I remember he changes it up later on for some weird reason.
It's the knee to the face, like kind of on the Heyman's carry.
Yeah. And then that was basically it. I gave it like 2 stars. Nothing really wrong with this match. It just sucks because you thought Ty Dillinger was going to be a bigger deal on SmackDown, but it never really happens. What did you think of this?
It was okay. Okay match. I like the fact that he won. Ty Dillinger.
Yeah.
He was over. The gimmick was over.
Yes, he was. We won't do a career retrospective. We've done one before anyways on Ty Dillinger, but we're going to save Aiden English for Backlash because believe it or not, Chris, they do this match again at Backlash. So, then it shows a video package for AJ Styles, just everything he's done up to that point in his WWE career. Then we had a vignette for Lana. You're probably thinking to yourself, why would they do a vignette for Lana? She's with Rusev. Everyone knows who Rusev is. Well, even though they were on the same fucking brand, Vince was obsessed with this. He wanted to split Rusev and Lana up, and he tried it again here. The vignette's just her doing like a bunch of dancing around type of thing where I don't even know what her gimmick was ever really meant to be, but she says, Lana, coming soon. It's like, wait, Lana, you were already there. Like, why are you doing vignettes for Lana? It says,
why are you
Lana.
coming soon?
Yeah. But I think I remember we booed this because we did not like the fact that they were going to split Rusev and Lana up. We still hate it nowadays. What did you think of this?
Yeah, not good.
Then we had a promo from Dolph Ziggler. John and I booed Dolph Ziggler because we weren't Dolph Ziggler guys at this time. I think you booed him too because you didn't like the fact he was a heel at this time. But you gave him but you still gave him like a pretty decent reaction. He comes out here. He talks about how He's been the standard bearer of SmackDown. He's the reason you watch SmackDown. Everyone that's coming in is like flavors of the month type of thing.
They are.
And he's been the standard bearer for this company for years. You're the reason. He's the reason that you guys all watch. I almost said you're the reason that we all watch. That would have been weird. And he says that there's nobody in that locker room that can hold a candle to me. And who comes out? None other than Shinsuke Nakamura. And the place comes unglued because Nakamura was still new. He wasn't new, obviously. He had been in
debuted the week before.
Yeah, on the main roster. So everyone loved seeing Shinsuke Nakamura. We all reacted hugely to this because it's the first time I saw Nakamura live. I think it's the first time a lot of people probably saw Nakamura live because he only really worked Japan. Like, obviously, it's the first time I think it's definitely the first time Nakamura had been in Boston anyways, too. So it was really cool. He comes out here and Dolph Ziggler asks who he is, and Shinsuke Nakamura says, "I'm Shinsuke Nakamura," and he challenges Dolph Ziggler to a fight. Dolph Ziggler doesn't accept. He goes to super kick him. Nakamura blocks it, and he pushes him down to the ground. He does the "come on" thing and challenges Ziggler to a fight, but Ziggler doesn't accept. Obviously, on air, it ends this way, but we saw this. They announced that during the dark match, it's going to be Shinsuke Nakamura versus Dolph Ziggler, which we were all really excited about. We really wanted to see Nakamura wrestle because we never saw him wrestle before. But yeah, what did you think of this segment right here?
I think this was a really, really good segment. It set up a really good match, too, in the dark also, too. Then
it shows a video package for Baron Corbin, showing everything that he did, how ruthless and aggressive he was at this time. Then they announced that the New Day is going to SmackDown. This made sense.
That was big.
This made sense because they did everything they could on Raw. It made sense to change it up and go to SmackDown. And it was big because it was a big tag team. They had just broken the record, at least at that time, anyways, for the longest tag title run. So that's why it was big. And yeah, I think at this time the New Day don't show up for a while because if you remember, I think this is just me speculating at this time. I think they were trying to keep the New Day off TV for a while because I'm pretty sure right before this, the sex tape leaks with Xavier Woods, Paige, and was it Brad Maddox?
Yeah.
So I think they were trying to get people to forget about that because it was kind of tough to having the New Day really be on TV. I know they were still kind of on TV because they were.
I think it was just Kofi and Big E were.
Yeah, but I remember they completely stopped showing up anyways on Xavier completely. Which you can understand why the WWE wanted that wanted to keep him off TV.
Or he could have just been out there throwing his sex tapes into the crowd.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was big for the New Day. This is a shakeup that ended up working out big time because we got that great tag title feud with the New Day and the Usos. And apparently that 5-star classic Hell in a Cell match, that if you don't rate that 5 stars, you don't know anything about wrestling. So, you almost had to quit the show, Chris. You couldn't even quit because you were trapped. You couldn't even quit the show that week. So,
I didn't think it was 5 stars. Uh-oh.
He has the show muted, so he can't hear us. So,
not 5 stars.
Then it shows a video package for Sami Zayn. Really good video package for Sami Zayn here. It was kind of like his NXT video package mixed with the main roster one, which is cool.
I find it so funny how they do these video packages, even though we just saw them wrestle in the last
I know. And Tom Phillips is like, we're going to do our video packages showing them.
They did 17 video packages this night.
Yeah. I don't think we saw.
90% of the show was video packages.
I don't think we saw any of these video packages there because obviously they didn't show them, but it was just weird. We didn't see this, but then they do a 205 Live ad where TJ Perkins talks about how he turned heel on Jack Gallagher the night before, and he's going to beat him up at 205 Live. We didn't see this, but this did happen. So we'll talk about that later.
Blandkins.
At this time, yeah. Then we had the main event of SmackDown. It was the United States Championship #1 contenders match. It was Sami Zayn versus Baron Corbin versus AJ Styles. This match was awesome. Sami Zayn and AJ Styles worked together to beat up Baron Corbin. They just beat the crap out of him. They hit a double suplex onto him. Eventually, AJ Styles goes off the top rope and hits like a phenomenal forearm onto like a springboard one on the outside onto Corbin. And then Zayn hits a flip dive onto him. Eventually, Corbin takes control. He throws Styles. He sends Styles face first into the post, and he throws Sami Zayn just over to the stage type of thing. And he dominates the match for a long time, actually. Probably too long, but it was still good enough. Eventually, AJ Styles does a comeback, and then he gets cut off, and then Sami Zayn does one. AJ Styles hits a Hoshi onto Sami Zayn, but he kicks out. Sami Zayn hits a Blue Thunderbomb on Styles. He kicks out. Corbin hits that move where he runs through the ropes. He runs back in and hits the clothesline. I remember too. John and I have always hated this move. I don't think he really ever given an opinion on it, but he just didn't really care enough to give an opinion on it. But I've always hated this move. It never looks smooth when he does it. I remember he tries it again later and he gets cut off, which is cool. I like that because that move sucks. And then Sami Zayn,
all of wrestling.
Yeah, Sami Zayn hits a high crossbody onto Corbin, but he kicks out. Corbin hits the deep six onto Sami Zayn. He kicks out of that, and then there's this really good moment where Baron Corbin has Sami Zayn up in an electric chair position, and AJ Styles goes for some type of crossbody or something, like a forearm off the on the first turnbuckle. Sami Zayn turns it into a roll-up, which causes Styles to miss, and he nearly wins the match right there. If you remember, I don't know if you remember that spot, but a lot of the fans went crazy because they thought Sami Zayn won the match right there.
Yeah, I thought it was all over.
Yeah. Then eventually, Zayn hits Corbin with a haluva kick, sending him to the outside, and Styles hits the phenomenal forearm onto Sami Zayn, gets the win. I gave the match like a 3 3/4 star, but I'm going to bump it up to a 4 because I remember this match as being awesome live. So I remember there's more of the match that you don't even see on screen because they obviously continue it to the break, but I don't remember exactly what happens. But this match really was awesome live. The crowd was really into it. And it was awesome. What did you think of this match overall?
I thought this match was great. The crowd was super into it. They were super hot for that false finish. But yeah, AJ ended up winning, which made a lot of sense. But yeah, I thought the match was great. I give it 3 stars, 3.5 stars.
And that's the SmackDown portion of the show. There's some WWE.com exclusive where AJ Styles talks about how he defied SmackDown. They talk about how the Usos feel like there's a conspiracy theory against them because they're not being booked in enough tag matches. It's a great way to get over your talent right there. And Mojo Rawley does this hype promo celebration.
God.
It was just terrible. So that was that. So we didn't mention this. We did see Gronk leave, by the way. I forgot to mention this. I think did he leave right after the Mojo match, pretty much, or did he leave shortly afterwards? Because I remember he left
right after the Mojo match.
He probably went up to like the skybox where he was like originally. Or maybe he just left. I don't know. But I remember everyone kind of booed when he left because they wanted to still. I really didn't care, obviously. But they wanted to see. Isn't it funny, by the way? You were a big Gronk guy at that time because I don't think you could. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can't stand him nowadays, correct? Like,
yep.
And I know you're gonna say that was because he left the Patriots, but that was before he even that was when he signed with WWE before he went back to football type of thing. Like you hated Gronk.
So my reasoning for it was he did this fake retirement thing where he said that his brain is mush and from all the hits that he was taking and it really suckered me in because I'm like, yeah, this guy took some pretty vicious hits during his career, and it was like, okay, this sucks. He's gone. So Tom Brady leaves the Patriots the next year after the 2019 season because Gronk said it all of 2019. Tom comes back and Tom goes to Tampa in 2020. Now Gronk is suddenly healed from all of his miraculous ailments, and he goes down to Tampa with Tom, and that pissed me off to no end, and it made me hate him forever since then. And I still don't like him.
There's other things that happened with Gronk. We forgot to do a career retrospective on him. He would get signed with WWE in 2020. To be fair, it was bad timing to sign him because the pandemic, I think, happened like right after he signed. So it is kind of funny to watch because Gronk comes out and he's trying to be all energized, but there's no one fucking there, so it's just so weird.
There's 3 people. I think it was Mojo,
Cole,
and Triple H. I think.
No, that would have been.
Or
I think it was just Cole because that's the week Cole did it by himself. So
it was someone. It was like 2.
Yeah.
I think it was like one of the Brazen. I forget what it was.
yeah,
But Gronk did that like really uncomfortable,
Yeah.
cringe-worthy entrance in front of nobody.
yeah, and then he won the 24/7 title at WrestleMania. The biggest thing is he did that big dive off like that big thing we see at the NXT like
The crow's nest.
yeah, and that's famous because Vince had to Vince took the dive to show
Vince did the fucking bump at like 74 years old that Gronk refused to do. He literally got up there and did the fucking bump.
yeah.
I was like, oh my god.
And then shortly afterwards, like you said, he went back to the NFL and they had to take the title off him. And I'm going to be honest, even though the pandemic hit it, I feel like no one talks about this. Some of the reason we got the Black Wednesday releases was because they fucking spent all their money signing Gronk. I think people would have gotten released, but not as quickly had Gronk not ever signed. I think some of those people would have lasted a lot longer than they did. That's just my
money on him.
Yeah. And then
it's just been like $0.
Yeah. And then they didn't make any of their money back because he left. When did he leave? Because I always forget he was even there. Like technically, I know his last thing he did was he dropped the title to R-Truth, but I'm pretty sure he was gone like right after WrestleMania. He went back to the football pretty much.
He did.
Yeah. So like WWE was fucked because then they couldn't do anything with him. Because they couldn't take any fucking bumps. I kind of find that funny though. Like we've seen NFL guys who are in the NFL and they still do stuff wrestling wise. I think Gronk was just being a fucking bitch and didn't want to do anything.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. Anything? I know he played football. I know he's retired now. When did he retire the second time?
I think it was 2021. Yeah, because last year he didn't play.
Okay. And then now he does now he's like an analyst now on NFL and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, he did that. He did that during his fake retirement. He was signed to Fox, and he was doing halftime in between the Fox games for Fox, and then he went to WWE, and then he just retired recently again.
Yeah, I remember like isn't it funny though? Like Gronk was probably the biggest NFL signing, NFL performer to WWE signing they probably ever had though, but it didn't work out. Funny, like look at all the low tier like athletes that they got. That on it, like Pat McAfee. Like I know Pat McAfee's pretty well known, but obviously not to the Gronk level. That's worked out way more than the fucking Gronk signing. Like
everyone, I mean, Pat McAfee was a beloved person in the football space. So for him to go to WWE brought a lot of football eyeballs to the WWE.
Yeah, and he's just entertaining anyways. Like even when he doesn't try to be entertaining, he's fucking entertaining. Like I really wish they would.
Because he's just genuinely funny. Like
I really wish they could have gotten like. Obviously, I know you couldn't do it all the time because they get stale, but like. I know he did commentary, but I really wish we could have gotten like 6 months of just him being like a wrestler because he was that good. Like he was, he's. I know Gronk never had a match, but he's better than Gronk probably would have been in a wrestling one. Like he's awesome. Yeah. Like, and funny thing is, he was a heel. He got people to hate him. Like I don't think Gronk would have been able to do that. Pat McAfee got people to hate him. Like it's great. Insane. Now let's cover the 205 Live portion. I'll make this quick because I know. So let's talk about the running joke here. So I remember at the time I had to do a 205 Live review solo because you, John, and Steve, you didn't watch 205 Live, so you didn't want to talk about it. This is like the one time I think you guys were like, okay, we're here. We'll let you talk about 205 Live this week. It was kind of you threw me a bone type of thing. we were actually debated whether or not we were even going to stay for 205 Live because you remember we took the train in, and we had to beat the train back. But we wanted to see Nakamura wrestle because
we almost
announced
did
that.
It. We were like 99% sure we were going to leave. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we're going to watch. I don't know how we stayed. I can't believe we did. But, yeah, going through it, we had Corey Graves and Tom Phillips come out. I'm pretty sure Graves comes out and has his own entrance. And I remember they did like an intermission. They switched the apron so they could switch the apron over and everything like that. Switch the ropes because you remember they would only wrestle with the purple ropes on 205.
The perp. The perp ropes.
Yep. It shows an intro. It kind of highlights what's been going on. It shows the Fatal 4-Way match that happened the week before that Austin Aries won. I know that's a name for the past, isn't it? Where he became number one contender to the cruiserweight title, and it shows T.J. Perkins turning on him, and it announced and they hype up the big match that's going to take place, which was Jack Gallagher versus T.J. Perkins. And then we have the intro. It shows Pyro again. And let's just say we found out something pretty big about 205 Live at this time. That arena was fucking almost, I don't even want to say half empty. It's like 3/4 empty by the time 205 Live fucking starts. And it gets worse. Like that arena was like, it was almost like SummerSlam 2017 level kickoff show, like level type empty. That's how empty it was. I know a lot of people talk about that episode of Rampage that happened in Boston when it was like that. We had that big storm going on, and they talked about people leaving on that show and all that type of stuff. It was worse than that. Like that's why I really didn't react to it all that much when people broke the news, because I'm like, I was at 205 Live in 2017. That arena was like the emptiest I've ever seen a wrestling win at that point. Like it was bad.
They left it in robes.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure our section was pretty much like empty. Like it was bad. Like, but yeah, we had the first match on the show. It was the Brian Kendrick versus Mustafa Ali. Not much of a reaction. I think Kendrick got a little bit of it because he was fairly well known, obviously, from his Ruthless Aggression era days and things like that. Mustafa Ali, I know like that's weird to think of now, but no one really reacted to Mustafa Ali. Because if you remember, Mustafa Ali was very cookie cutter. Like he wasn't over at this time. Remember the attire that he wrestled in was like his cruiserweight classic attire. It was so. If you look back at it now, it looks so stupid. And
it does, yeah.
Yeah. This match though was good. The wrestling was always. I think John and I and you said it. Like the wrestling was always good. Like we didn't really dispute that. It's just it wasn't over at this time. No one wanted to see this stuff. We were all waiting for Nakamura too, which was the biggest thing. Like everyone wanted to see the Nakamura Ziggler match. They were just waiting for it. And they were antsy for it. And yeah. Mustafa, at this time, the Brian Kendrick was in a feud with Akira Tozawa where he was trying to be Tozawa's mentor, and he would always do things to teach him lessons. And the week before this, they did the reverse throw where Tozawa started doing it with Kendrick. I always thought the storyline was good. In hindsight, it probably lasted way too fucking long, though. Like they should have, like the storyline should have ended by this point, but they just dragged it the fuck out like another month, and it was getting to be long at this point. We did get that classic street fight between Kendrick and Tozawa, but it was like the storyline had lost all its luster by that point. But yeah, Kendrick dominates the match early. He does this thing where he goes under the ring, he comes out the other side, and he kicks the steps into Mustafa Ali's hand. He like stomps on it. It is a good spot, but it did not translate live because it looked so stupid. Because if you watch it live, Mustafa Ali looks like in the arena. Mustafa Ali looks so stupid doing that.
He did, yeah.
Kendrick dominates the match. During the match, Drew Gulak was watching the match backstage because they were feuded. This is when Drew Gulak started his no flips gimmick. And he obviously Mustafa Ali was the first feud in that. We obviously didn't know he was watching. And it's that WWE way, which this has been done away with in the Triple H era now, where they didn't know how to watch TV properly type of thing. And then eventually Mustafa Ali makes a comeback. He had some really nice maneuvers there. Eventually Kendrick locks in the captain's hook. The bell rings, and I think at first we thought he tapped because they weren't really faced over or anything like that. But then when we saw Tozawa out there, we're like, okay, they're doing an angle with this. He didn't tap. The referee's like, oh, no, I didn't win the bell. No. And then the match continues. Ali hits the 054, the inverted version, for the win. And that was the end of the match right there. I give it like 3 stars. Probably live, it was probably like a 2 because we really didn't care about this. But watching it back, it's like a 3-star match. Do you remember this match at all or anything like that?
Nope.
There you go. And then TJ Perkins gets interviewed. He really says the same thing he said in the 205 Live ad, but he talks about how he's been like the standard bearer of like the cruiserweight division since it started, and he got it going and stuff. And he said that he hates the fact that he's been put on the back burner. Gallagher interrupts him. Everyone did love Gallagher here. He was really over here. And he said that he's going to teach TJ Perkins a lesson. Pretty decent interview right there. Then we have, this is where the benefit of hindsight is, we had Rich Swann versus Johnny Ocean. However, they don't announce him as Johnny Ocean. He's just out there. They never announce who this guy is. So all of us are chanting to this guy, who are you? Because we didn't know who he was. They didn't do an introduction for him or anything. And I'll let you tell the story, Chris, because you looked him up the next day. Who does this guy end up being nowadays?
Matt Menard.
Yep. And we talked about this. Huh?
Matt Menard, Matt Lee.
Yeah.
Fucking
And we talked. Yeah.
hilarious.
We talked about it a couple of days ago, too. Now that we know who Matt Menard is, you can't unsee it now because he does his scream. Like, you know it's Matt Menard now because of the way he talks and the way he screams and everything like that.
The way that he looks like Matt Hardy.
Yeah. But they call him Johnny Ocean here. That's a job. That's the biggest job name I've ever heard in my life. Obviously, Rich Swann wins. He wins with the Phoenix Splash. I gave that like a 2 stars. It was pretty much a squash match. Kind of, it is what it is. I always laugh at like Rich Swann's theme song at this time because the lyrics just didn't even make any sense. It was just pop lyrics. One of the lyrics in the song is but your daddy's gone, but your mama's home. So now we can do like, it's like he's trying to like fuck a woman pretty much. That's what it is. Like it's his theme songs. There's a lot of there's very few theme songs that make me laugh. Trish Stratus theme song, because it's just the lyrics don't even make sense there. Shane McMahon's theme song, specifically when he says "Smell my cologne," it's called "Brand New Money." Rey Mysterio's old theme song, not the one he has now, but "Who's That Jumping Up the Sky?" It's a good song, but it's just fucking hilarious.
Yeah, he spell out his fucking name for people to know who he was.
Yeah, Paul White's theme song now in AEW now is fucking hilarious because it's so bad. Taz's theme song, not the one he has now, but there was like a theme song he had in AEW that was just like him looping his catchphrases, which was hilarious. There's one other one that's like, Jeff Hardy's TNA heel theme song where he talked about how he needed to take a nap. That was hilarious.
The nap I need to take. Then take the nap. Stop thinking about it.
And then there's one other one. Obviously, Rob Condre's "Just Look at Me" theme song.
Oh my god!
Like there's a lot.
I watched a SmackDown recently. When he was like just debuting that gimmick.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, I guess there's a lot more theme songs now that I list them that make me laugh. I don't know why, they just make me laugh, but yeah. After this, though, Rich Swann gets on the mic, and they were doing the storyline at the time where he was sending gifts to Alicia Fox, and this was at the time they had Alicia Fox and Noam Dar as an item.
Alicia Fox.
Yeah, and
that was a thing.
Yeah. You wouldn't think of that now. We don't see Noam Dar nowadays, huh? But Noam Dar was taking credit for him, but Rich Swann revealed that it was actually him that sent the gifts. And Noam Dar comes out and says that he's sick and tired of him taking credit for those gifts, and he calls out Alicia Fox. And I remember at one point we were there live. He really stretches out saying Alicia Fox's name. He acts like he's gonna stop, but then he just kept. I think he forgot to say he forgot to pronounce the X. He had to recover it. It was so funny. And then Alicia Fox comes out and she was really terrible, telling Rich Swann to stop, get involved in relationships. I remember too, because Noam Dar even says that to Rich Swann, stop interfering in other people's relationships, which was funny because if you remember, the storyline started with him stealing Cedric Alexander. Him stealing Alicia Fox away from Cedric Alexander. I almost said the opposite. I almost said stealing Cedric Alexander away from Alicia Fox. But then a guy comes out with a box. And Noam Dar takes credit for this gift. And I remember too, Alicia Fox what's in it? And she's like, you're gonna have to open it because clearly Noam Dar doesn't know what's in there. So
is it clearly didn't send it?
Yeah. And I remember too, she opened the box and powder goes up in her face and everything like that. It looked like cocaine, honestly. I think too, John. I think you and John Tanner. How's that cocaine taste? That's what you guys did. And then so Rich Swann did this as a prank type of thing. And Vince was laughing his ass off backstage. He loved these gags doing all this stuff. Pal. Yeah, I think he's the only one that liked this storyline. This storyline was awful at this time. I remember too.
Things sucked.
Yeah, because why the storyline sucked is because there was one of those things where Rich Swann looked like the asshole for interfering in their relationship when he didn't even make any sense. They do explain it later that he does this for Cedric Alexander, but that's something that they should have explained right away. It was meant to be a twist. It was you should have explained it right away because everybody knew that Rich Swann and Cedric Alexander were best friends. Why not explain that shit right away so that way Rich Swann doesn't look like a fucking dick? This was terrible. This storyline was awful. What did you think of this?
He could call himself Dick Swan.
Yeah, what did you think of this?
Terrible.
Yeah.
I thought the Rich Swann part was funny, but yeah.
Yeah.
Because I like comedy.
Then Austin Aries gets interviewed. He talks about how he's going to win the Cruiserweight Championship and how Neville's sending a guy like Jack Gallagher to soften him up isn't going to stop him. This was funny here. He was eating a banana. And when he eats he takes a bite from this banana and he dabs to take the bite of banana to mock TJ Perkins. I remember too, John and I laughed our asses off when that happened. It was really funny. I think the thing
who doesn't win the title.
Yeah. I think the thing that we thought was funny about this was they flew fucking Austin Aries and Neville to the fucking arena. They do interviews backstage. Neville comes out, but what if you're gonna fucking bother flying him out there? Why not have him have a match on the fucking show? Everyone wants to see Austin Aries. It was the only chance I was gonna get to see Austin Aries, so I didn't get that. Vince loved doing that, flying people out just to do interviews backstage at this time.
Oh yeah, he always did that.
What did you fly him out there for then? I know they've done it. I know they've done things where Roman Reigns is just seen backstage, but at least Roman Reigns does something. It didn't make any. What did you fly Austin Aries out for if he's not going to have a match? He's clearly there.
It's true.
Then we had Gentleman Jack Gallagher versus TJ Perkins. This match was good. Gallagher dominates this match early. He goes for a spot where you guys fly up, do a high cross takedown to the outside where he uses his umbrella, but TJ Perkins backs away. And Gallagher dabs to get him back in the win, and this pisses TJ Perkins off, so he attacks him. Perkins dominates him for a while, probably too long. And at this point, the crowd, the lack of crowd, I should say anyways, start chanting, "This match is boring," and you hear the other half chanting, "No, it's not." And I hate to say it, I was on the first part because I think too at this point everyone just wanted to see the Nakamura match at this point, so they really didn't want to see this match anymore. They were over it because this match goes a while. Eventually, TJ Perkins wins with the detonation kick, and then Neville comes out and raises his hand and stuff afterwards. Neville was walking the match backstage again. They fucking flew Neville out, didn't have him have a match. It didn't make sense. What a waste of Neville's time too, by the way. Like he flew out just to come out there and stand there for a minute. Like, and I wouldn't get so mad about it if they fucking didn't have to pay because they pay for the lone travel too. So Neville basically didn't make any money at all here. So, I remember we didn't see Neville though. We saw T.J. Perkins, but we didn't see Neville actually there. Obviously, Neville was doing really well as the king of the cruiserweights at the time. So I give the match like a 3-star rating. But this match was worse live. It was really bad live because we didn't want to see this. What did you think?
Yeah, it was bad.
That was 205. That was like it really wasn't a bad show, but it's really hurt when you. This is one of those shows that you probably would have been better off watching at home because it really was deafening to see how empty the fucking arena was. And the very little fans that stayed wanted to see Nakamura wrestle. We'll talk about that match for a bit. It was Nakamura versus Ziggler. The match is really good live. It's not a long match, but it's really good live. Like, it's really good. We really wanted to see Nakamura wrestle. We got our wish, and I loved it. What did you think?
I thought this was a really good dark match. They didn't go too crazy because they do have a match at Backlash, I believe.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So they didn't go too crazy for like people who weren't watching. So
yeah,
they definitely saved a lot of the good shit for the pay-per-view.
I hate to say it, this match. We'll talk about it, but this match is better than the match they have at Backlash, to be honest. So, but yeah, we'll talk about that later. And then we have Talking Smack. I'll just go through that real quick. The hosts were Renee Young, Daniel Bryan, and Shane McMahon. Again, no fucks given. Daniel Bryan was awesome here. I remember too. They were blaming each other, Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon, for why. Like if something happened that like Renee Young questioned him about, and Shane McMahon would blame Daniel Bryan for it, and Daniel Bryan would blame Shane McMahon for it. If it was something that like the fans didn't like and stuff like that. Like if Daniel Bryan talked about, I feel like we kind of failed at showcasing our tag titles at WrestleMania, and he went like, but there was a certain commissioner that had a match at WrestleMania that could have been clear. It was really funny. And Dolph Ziggler gets interviewed. He basically talks about being the face of SmackDown. He was eating an apple doing this, and he talks about how he's had his eyes on some talent and things like that. And then he kind of walks off and does his thing. And Daniel Bryan talks about like a story that he had with Nakamura where they roomed together and they went to like a donut shop, and he did like Nakamura said it was too sweet, and that Daniel Bryan went too sweet. He did like the too sweet thing. Like I could just totally picture him doing that in a fucking donut.
That's so nerdy.
And then Jinder Mahal gets interviewed, and he talks about how he wants to be a big time player on SmackDown, and says that he's been putting in the work and stuff. To be honest, his promo here was actually like really good. I remember I didn't see this. It wasn't like ready to be main event the next week type of promo, but it was like really good. Like it
was. It was you're getting the rocket ship strapped to you.
Yeah, I remember Jinder Mahal was talking about like how he doesn't have cheat days, and Daniel Bryan says, "I used to feel that way," and Jinder Mahal, I try not to have cheat days. And then Jinder Mahal says, "Didn't you just talk about how you went to a donut shop and having sweets? I don't even do that shit." Daniel Bryan says it was a vegan donut, and Jinder was like, "Oh, that doesn't count." That was really funny. Again, no fucks given. Daniel Bryan is awesome right here.
What if it was all fucks given Daniel Bryan?
Probably still would have been awesome. And then when Jinder Mahal leaves, they start asking questions about like who they're happy that they went to SmackDown. Daniel Bryan says, "I'm happy that the big hog James Ellsworth stayed on SmackDown." That big hog right there. I remember too at one point Shane McMahon calls like a wrestler the big hog, and Daniel Bryan offers gimmick infringement. He does gimmick infringement on Shane McMahon calling him the big hog, and Shane's like, "I don't think I said the big hog." And Renee's like, "I heard you say the big hog. You said the big hog." And Daniel Bryan's like, "Yeah, Renee Young's backing me up." Yeah, he's like, I had no fucks given. Daniel Bryan was the fucking best. And then Kevin Owens does his interview on Talking Smack. He talks about how he's the best acquisition that SmackDown has. He was wearing his suit. He throws his shoes at Shane McMahon, and Daniel Bryan doesn't like Kevin Owens' shoes because a cow was made for it. And Kevin Owens and Daniel Bryan talk about what it's going to be like for Daniel Bryan to be a dad. And he said that he's the greatest superstar on SmackDown. And he takes offense that he wasn't drafted to SmackDown originally, that he was drafted late in the draft. And Daniel Bryan tries to say, well, that was a Shane McMahon call right there. But I'm pretty sure, like, you were still drafted pretty early in the draft. And Kevin Owens was like, no, I wasn't. I was drafted, like, late in the draft. And he talks about how, like, he went right after Finn Balor, who has never been on the main roster in his life. He was, like, really offended by it.
Should grow up.
Yeah. And then Daniel Bryan said, and Shane McMahon talk about how Kevin Owens is going to be a big asset to SmackDown. And then the show ends right there. Again, great talking smack right there. I think it's the last truly great one because Daniel Bryan goes away and Shane and Renee host it. Not that Shane's a bad host. It's not having no fucks given Daniel Bryan, obviously isn't as good. But that's the end of the Superstar Shakeup episode of SmackDown. Again, we're going to do most of our career retrospectives. We forgot to do one on Austin Aries, like Chris said. He never won the belt. He left the company shortly afterwards. He worked the Indies for a bit. He had there's that famous thing where he cuts the shoot promo about his time in WWE on an indie show. He went to Impact for a bit, and he was the champ there. I think he went through this period of time where he had like 7 different titles at once. He lost the belt to Pentagon Jr., then won the belt back, and then lost it to Johnny Impact at Bound for Glory. And there's that famous thing where he no-sold his finish. It was meant to lead to something, but it never did. It's questionable whether that was a work or a shoot. He then worked the Indies. There's a lot of controversial things that he says that kind of causes him not to get work elsewhere. He wrestled for the NWA for a little bit in the junior heavyweight division, but he never won the title. He wrestled for Control Your Own Narrative, but that company kind of didn't really go anywhere. And he's just chilling. He's just doing his indie thing and just being Austin Aries. So good for Austin Aries, I guess, right? I guess not good for Chris, though, because he doesn't like Austin Aries being Austin Aries. He wants him to be somebody else. I don't know who, but he wants him to be somebody else. But now that I've done that, let's do the final grades for the Superstar Shakeup episode of SmackDown. If you had to give this show a letter grade with our experience and everything like that, what would you give it?
Letter grade. This is I give it a B-.
I'm gonna give it a solid B. Mainly because of the experience going there live was awesome. And then I almost forgot, by the way. I'll let you tell the story. But yeah, just the experience live. We did have some killer matches on the show. Like we got to see Nakamura wrestle. We got to see the triple threat, the opening promo, the tag title match rules, and for us, the Jinder match is more significant for us now than for a lot of people. So, really good stuff. But there's a story that happens to us when we go on the train. You want to talk about that story?
So we're waiting to go on the train. We finally get on the train. Doors open. And there's this homeless man. And he has a bottle of fucking Listerine that's on the fucking train floor.
Yeah.
Spilled over. And he's fucking drunk, you could clearly. And instead of sitting far away from him, what the fuck does Owen do? He sits down right next to him. Out of all the fucking places on this empty fucking train that he could have sat, he chooses to sit right next to him. And we're like, what the fuck? What are you doing?
Owen.
This did happen.
Owen, buddy. Are you serious?
He's like, yes, he sat down right next to him.
Out of all the places in the fucking MBTA that was there in the train, and you chose the fucking drunk out of his gourd, puking homeless fucker.
Well, luckily he wasn't puking. So
you don't know that. He could have fucking immediately started puking.
Even John was like, "Why did you sit next to him?"
Yeah, that was terrible. That was bad. That was not. It's not a good choice on my part. But luckily, the train stops, and I think John even says, "Oh, and this is our stop right here." I almost said no, but John, I think John knew I was going to say no. I was like, "Oh, and it's our stop." So because, and then we get off the train and we switch to like a different code, pretty much. So, yeah. So yeah, that's
I can't believe that happened. That's I thought mine was bad. I accidentally got into the wrong car thinking it was John's.
that James, that actually might be worse because you should know John's car by that point.
Well, I was also 21 and dumb and couldn't see anything in that fucking parking lot, but. Bro, you had no excuse. You saw a broad fucking daylight. There's lights everywhere, and there's a fucking homeless man, clearly as day, drunk.
James, you don't have any excuses either. You should know John's car. You've been John's car like 4 times by that point.
John's car looks like a fucking sedan that can easily be misseen if it's in dark enough conditions. You don't have that excuse when you see the guy who's clearly drunk. I don't want to hear it.
All right. So there is a question we have, and then we'll wrap up the show. He says, "Are you all gonna do the wild card episodes of Raw and SmackDown?" Zero wants to know. We'll probably do those some days. Maybe we'll put them on the docket since that's a fan requested one. I don't even remember what the Raw and SmackDown wild card episodes would have been. I know the wild card one for SmackDown wasn't that like I don't even remember what that was. So he'll have to tell us about it. But yeah, before we end this off, Chris, is there anything you want to plug or promote?
I will say this, and I'm probably going to say it in the other one too. It has nothing to do with wrestling, by the way. This promotion tonight is the fucking night because we're recording this on Thursday. It is the NFL draft. Big night for football. Tune in, watch it. Watch your favorite team draft a player. He might turn into a bust. He might suck, or he might be great. Who knows? It's entertaining, though. And I'm fucking pumped, and I cannot wait. So, let's fucking go.
Yeah. All right, and that's it. As for my stuff, today, you can, at 2:30, in like a couple hours, Chris and I will be back covering Backlash 2017. Which that's going to be a fun retro. And then as for the other stuff, I got to get the schedule up because it's been changing a lot because we just haven't had the best luck this week. We have this is definitely official now. Friday, we have which is tomorrow.
It ain't official. Let's just throw that out. It is all subject to change because this week proved that it has to fucking be that way. just say it with that with an asterisk to it.
But yeah, tomorrow we're gonna be doing WWE Aftershock covering this week's stuff before the draft, which is April 28th, 2023. We'll be streaming that at 1:30 p.m. Monday on May 1st, 2023 at noon. We'll be doing the WWE Raw June 5th, 2005 episode of Raw for the retros. Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. EST. We'll be doing WWE Aftershock. Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. EST. We'll be doing the Retro Wrestling Review Series for WWF Backlash 1999. Thursday, May 4th, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. EST. We'll be doing Backlash 2004 Retro. Friday, May 5th, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. EST. We'll be doing Night of Champions 2012 Retro. This might be subject to change. I still got to talk to Noah about it. I'm just kind of waiting. I might until like it gets closer so we can plan it out better. But the plan is
I'll talk to him.
Friday, May 5th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. EST. We'll be doing AEW Double or Nothing 2019 Retro. Then Saturday, May 5th, 2023, we'll be doing WWE Aftershock. at 1:30 p.m. EST. Sunday, May 7th, 2023, James and I will be doing TNA Unbreakable 2005 Retro. Monday, May 8th, 2023, we'll be doing a WWE Aftershock Extra at 12:30 p.m. EST. We're covering Backlash. And then Tuesday, May 9th, 2023, at 1:30 p.m. EST, we'll be doing a Retro Wrestling Review Series reviewing WWE Battleground 2013. And then if things can go right, this is subject to change. Wednesday, May 10th, 2023, at 1:30 p.m. EST, we'll be covering, Chris and I will be, and James will be covering WWF Judgment Day 2000. And then Thursday, May 11th, 2023, at 1:30 p.m. EST, Chris, James, and I will be doing a retro on WWF Royal Rumble 1998. This is all obviously subject to change at this point, but yeah, those are all the stuff that you can check out. You can check out the FTW main hub and check out the channel update video there, and check out the 400th video on the CM Brothers / FTW main hub video where I ranted for over 3.5 hours about the Death Note 2017 retro. And then check out on the Talkinator channel. We'll be launching new stuff on that channel probably late May, early June at this point. Everything's almost done intro-wise and stuff. It's just a matter of I'm going to North Carolina in late May, so that's why it's not quite happening yet. But yeah, so that's everything. We have a lot of stuff coming up. Hopefully we can get all this stuff up for you guys before I go away, but that's subject to change. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys, and we will talk to you guys later. And if you're watching this in the future, this will be recorded in the past / live streamed in the past. We will talk to you guys in the future.
We doing all the classics, you heard it, then I grabbed it. Flow like Method Man, then run like I'm Rabbit. Soon as I hear the bass line, it be my FaceTime. Music's in my veins, so just in case I'm without my iPod or a media player, I'll check my